Lewis.
Oh, isn't that special? So it's a historic day in the history of the United States. I'm going to say it of America. There's a distinction there on purpose, um, which we're going to talk about. This is an going to be an epic show, guys. I would send this all over the place. In fact, want to say first, welcome to SVG News. My name's Louis Herms with my co-host Robert Imbrielli right here. And please like, follow, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Now, what we're figuring out, folks, is our subscribers need to be logged in so they can hit the like and they were counted as a live. So we've been doing some investigation, and I can tell you there's a very interesting show that popped up, and they had less followers than we have, but 4 times more live viewers than we have because they figured it out, and therefore they get in the top 10 on Rumble, and everybody sees them. So if you really want to help us out, take that extra step, guys. If you're a subscriber, please log into your account and make sure you then click your thumbs up, and you'll be counted as a live person watching. And you could also be in chat if you so choose to be. That would really help us out a lot. We're trying to hit a certain number, and then we get posted on the top 10 of Rumble, and then it's a whole nother ballgame. Wow, Robert, interesting what happened today in Congress. In fact, I was taking notes on this shit show today, and it's very interesting. So let's roll into it. It's just, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm clearly going to have a lot to say, but it's just absolutely amazing what's going on right now.
It really is. You know, it continues. I think my thinking is this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for signs that we're winning, that we're moving in the right direction, and this. It's a little bit bigger than a little sign, but it's not really a big sign. It's just sort of a medium step, I think, in the right direction. Because, you know, McCarthy truly was a rhino, and we saw what he was doing, and he saw how he just went along with the let's not put a debt ceiling. Let's just put a date rather than an actual number. And the date's January of 2024 or whatever it was. That, you know, you could spend as much as you want up until then. We're not even going to think about a debt ceiling. I mean, really? You call yourself a Republican? What happened to conservative? What happened to rein in government spending? It's the exact opposite. Right?
Yeah. So to give an idea of what happened for those that don't understand, so they had a just a pretty benign normal vote today on things, and then they had, as most of you know, yesterday, Matt Gaetz proposed removing or vacating the speakership for McCarthy, which means if the vote went through, we'd have to start that vote all over again for somebody new, President Trump. Anyways, it's what happened though
I
is
heard that. I heard
did
that.
you? Uh-oh. So what happened today, and I'm sure we'll show some clips of this. At first, they had a, a they wanted to table this motion, and it's very interesting. Do we have any clips of that, Robert?
No, I didn't catch that part because I thought the next stage of it, the result of the vote was going to
Right.
be more
But I want to
intense.
explain to people, kind of take them through a timeline of the game that was
Mm-hmm.
played. So they wanted to table that motion. So they proposed to table that motion. And here's what's very, very interesting. They do a quorum, a public voice vote first, and everybody at the same time will shout either yay, and then they give a chance for the nays, right? To table the vote means they were trying to procrastinate and push this off. And the yays screamed so loud, and then the nays, you can barely hear the nays.
Yep.
But then somebody came up and said, "Well, we want the vote to be counted officially," and they give a 15-minute time clock on that. So you would think that yays are just going to, oh well, this is going to be tabled. This is an opportunity for them to make backdoor deals and all this stuff. It seemed like it had to be like a 70-30 vote. But when they actually took the vote, the nays won it, which is very interesting. So if they would have, and by the way, they legally can take the voice vote. I believe it's called a quorum, but they can legally take that vote if nobody proposed to have it counted. And then they said, yeas have it. Well, very interesting that the nays had it exist. So either he was virtue signaling, or maybe, like you said, he's trying to, because masks are so effective, he's trying not to get some germs.
Well, if he's on chemo, his immune system is attacked and really taken down to the, it's like, so if you're in public, you really got to be super careful about that.
So, but he could show up, but Pelosi can't show up.
Yeah. Pelosi didn't show up, and Anna Paulina Luna didn't show up, but she just had a baby, so apparently she's had complications after the birth. So that was the excuse we were hearing today. Very telling. I don't know about you, but there was cheering in my household when that vote went through.
Right. People are saying the vote was 216 to 210. We were watching it live, and it was 216 to 206. Unless they updated it, which is even more interesting. And I have the live final vote on image because I was smart enough.
216 to 210 was the final vote.
Interesting, because when they announced it, I have it live. It literally says right here. I'll show the picture just to show you guys.
Okay.
So this could be another 17 thing where they intentionally they show it, and then guess what happens? They remove it. See how I was smart enough to grab it for you knuckleheads that didn't believe me. It says right here, remove Republican Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker. The final vote was 216 to 206. They announced it. Maybe it changed afterwards. So it could have been, remember when they were calling all those people to vote and they just weren't answering?
Yep.
I don't understand the rules. Do they still have a chance to slip in their vote at the end or something we don't know? Or maybe they
had a chance after the roll call was done. They
gave
went back.
them a chance, right?
Yeah, they had one more chance to do that, and then they asked them if anybody didn't have a chance to vote. So maybe then they perked up. They woke up. I think half of them are asleep over there anyway. This is not really exciting stuff for them. You know what I mean?
Right. That is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to check something while you're talking real quick, since this is breaking fluid news.
It really is. It was only an hour ago that this happened, and like I said, there's a lot of cheering going on. All of a sudden, my brother's texting me and like, yes, we did it. We got rid of the rhino, and I get it. And I have to ask the question, and it's one of these things that when you look at this, you say, how could anybody, knowing what McCarthy hasn't done, and know the things that he has done, how could anybody be there supporting him? And the question really goes back to, okay, so what do these Congress people do? They represent, their constituents, right? And what is their job? They go to Washington, they try to get as much money as they can for their pet projects back home. They're going to do the park, they're going to fix the sewer system, they're going to do whatever. And in so doing, they pick the contractors and yada yada. There's a lot of kickback in that. There's a lot of kickback in that, right? And so it's a money game, and you're up in Congress. I guess you're there for as long as you're there. Grab as much as you can and get out. Unlike Dianne Feinstein, who just kept grabbing and never left, right? So you look at it from that perspective, and you go,
the end. So he can look like there's no bias whatsoever, and he just happens to be the next Speaker of the House if they so go forward with him.
I think he is probably one of the few that can think 5 steps ahead.
Right.
I think he is playing a strategy there. He's playing a card in a very specific way for a specific outcome. The rest can't vouch for him. Yeah.
Now, here's what's interesting. You and I talked offline about this. I'll go into it a little bit. 2 months ago, I had a private conversation with somebody that's actually in that room today. In the room with the House of Representatives, kind of puppeteering things. Let's just put it like this. He told me 2 months ago, this is exactly what was going to happen. And I'm like, well, this is all interesting. And I knew that he was legit, and I knew that he was in there, and I knew he had a lot of influence. And I know he's directly connected to President Trump. And when this started happening in the last couple of days, I'm like, man, he predicted this. What's going to happen? And sure enough, McCarthy's out. So again, are we just watching a movie in some cases? And we have to step back and really have a reasonable conversation on this. And I don't want to just jump on the Hopium bandwagon, and then I'm not also gonna ride that this is all real, because clearly a lot of this stuff is absolutely scripted. What are your thoughts?
I'll share this little piece that came up from Zero Hedge. McCarthy, shortest serving speaker since 1876. Interesting, huh? Yeah, no, it's definitely a play, and I just see every one of them has an agenda. And this is the thing that's really hard to get our heads around, because we look at 535 in Congress and we think, oh, they're all there, just they're public servants, right? They're there to serve us. But we've never seen that. What we see is they all go there. And I asked this question this morning, Lewis. I said, what if I were to run for Congress? Would I be able to go into that situation and remain and keep the morals and standards and the high morals that I tend to live by? Would I be able to keep them? Or would they get eroded very quickly, as they do with pretty much everybody else there? Well, I think that the real truth is I'd never get elected, right? Because I'm not a player. And they wouldn't be able to manipulate me and mold me into what they needed. Hence, there'd be no money, right? The RNC wouldn't give me money.
Or you would have what I call Liz Harris syndrome. So in Arizona, Liz Harris went in, and she was very honest. And then they try to control her. She says, "You're not going to control me. I'm going to do it my way, which is we the people's way." And then they found a loophole to push her out, and it was the rhinos that pushed her out.
Yeah, always.
And she's gone. So what they try to do at first is they try to put her in a box, like ignore her. Nobody, you can't see her. And then when she breaks out of the box and keeps pushing forward with her we the people agenda, then they literally got her out of there. She had a no confidence vote. That's probably what would happen to you in this situation. Yeah. I do think, though, we're in a different realm right now, because if that was the case now, Matt Gaetz they're trying, but Matt Gaetz would have been pushed out a long time ago.
They're trying. I mean, they're going to try and push him out of the caucus there. They're going to use the fake charges against him.
That is the key words. And I love that. He just said he's a creature of the swamp. And that's really what we're dealing with, right?
More ways than one. I mean, what he did with this continuing resolution to get it passed is really, really slimy. I mean, he got all the votes from the Republicans to vote for it, and they voted for it primarily because there was no funding for Ukraine. Then he goes to McConnell and Biden, and he says, we're going to fund Ukraine just differently than in the continuing resolution.
Yeah, it's the games slimy that are played.
Yeah.
Are just disgusting. And they're so obvious. So the beauty about this, and this is why I like to stay kind of pragmatic about this thing right here, is whether a movie or not, it really doesn't matter at this point. Because what do we know? We know the cabal's falling. We know that we the people are taking hold of things, and the deep state is being exposed to a level that's never been seen before. So even if they're exposing themselves, it's just as good as if this whole thing is scripted.
Right.
Because we're seeing it in real time, the games. I bet you more people understand how the House of Representatives works now than they did 7 years ago.
Yep.
And I think they're starting to go, wow, it's all games. And it really is. And we've been saying right here on this channel for years and years and years, you guys, these are all actors. And that this is way before the narrative of them being actors was out there. This has been a long time. We've been saying these are actors. You guys are watching actors, and that's really what they are. They're playing a part because that's how they make their money. Juan O'Savin would say as far as they also gets paid from the FCS.
Yep.
Which would make sense also. But that's another adjunct to their income. And then I think where they make most of their money is insider trading anyways.
Yeah. There's that, and their paid perks that come to them through shell corporations and such to vote a certain way. And it's like you look at these politicians and you say they have to be an expert in so many different areas. They have to be an expert on energy. They have to be an expert on healthcare. They all these different things, and there's no way that they are. In the same way we look at journalists and say they act on the air as if they're experts in all these areas. They're not. They're reporting a story. They've got this piece and this fact, and they put it together, and they put together a little package, a little 3-minute hit. I tend not to talk about stories where I'm not an expert, right? Because I don't want to, or at least I have a fair amount of knowledge, because I want to, I don't want to be talking about something that I could be totally wrong about. So I'm picky with the kind of the stories that I bring up for that reason. And I don't think in the position of a congressman, congresswoman, that's the case. I think they may have an area of expertise. Nancy Mace, I looked her up a little bit. I wanted to find out more about her because she was quite the firebrand last week, right? During that hearing. And businesswoman, entrepreneur. Okay, so we understand. She understands how the money flows. She understands the economy. She understands jobs. She understands payroll, right? That kind of thing. So we look at them. They all have their little areas of expertise. They're not experts in everything. And I think the mistake we make in our government is putting one person as president and saying, you have to rule over everything. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right approach going forward.
Well, ultimately, that's why they have certain personnel inside their team that specialize in things. Trump, I thought, was fantastic at appointing these. But when there were failures, of course, the first thing the Patriots would say is, oh, he's just shedding light on them. That's why they failed. Yeah. But can you have it both ways, really? I think, honestly, and Trump even said this, and this, if you really want the biggest clue, he said, the deep state swamp is a lot deeper than I thought it was.
Yep.
I think that's more likely than everybody that he talks about he's exposing light on. Mm-hmm. I think he got in there and they went to go to work. They're like, whoa, this is really bad. Oh, this is worse. Oh, well, this is
He ran
epic.
into it as an example with the EPA. The EPA was making laws, which they have no business doing. That's not their mandate. They don't have the power to do that. But they were doing it anyway. We have a pond on our property. EPA would regulate that and say how much water we can put in there, what kind of fish we can have, and all the rest of this. And he's like, there's no way you can regulate that. You don't have that power. That's up to the states. The states will regulate it, not the EPA. So he repealed a lot of the EPA's rulings.
And your mind is the battlefield, for sure.
Well, if you control the population, you have the power, and that's what they hate most about Trump is he's got a lot of influence over a large swath of the population, which is very powerful. He can do a lot with that, even though he's quote unquote not in office. He's still having a major impact on what goes on there in Washington, right? And because he's won us over in terms of saying what we've been feeling and we've been thinking. So there's that unbelievable connection there. I remember, Louis, I'll tell you a quick story. When I first came across, my dad was always listening to Rush Limbaugh. And after he passed away, I turned it on a little bit. And I'm like, I hear he's going to indoctrinate people. I'm not going to be indoctrinated. So I'm just going to turn it on. I'm going to listen. And I'm going to see what he has to say. And I'm like, everything was like running through that filter of common sense, which I tend to live by. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense too. And then you start to get into that conversation. You realize, he's breaking down a lot of the stuff that, as a layman, you don't understand, but he just brought it down to a level that was really simple to understand. And that was really my introduction to really understanding the political framework, the political landscape, if you will.
Yeah, isn't it the truth? So I think we just need an awareness, and to understand what we're hearing. And this should all be a lesson in discernment. I'm not quite sure it is yet, because I watch people take their sides, even inside the Patriot movement.
Absolutely.
Like everything that comes out, they believe immediately.
Yep.
By the way, I'm going to do a preemptive strike. There is a reason why on this channel we have not discussed October 4th, which is tomorrow. By the way, I won't be here tomorrow. So but we can review it on the 5th.
Oh, your phone will be off anyway. Oh, that's no fun.
Oh, no. Oh, geez. But there's a reason we haven't discussed it on this channel, and when do you, as we the people, become responsible for your own actions and your own belief system when all this stuff comes out.
Right.
So that will be the lesson tomorrow, and we'll talk about it on Thursday.
And discernment is hard when you're being hit with, the news media that looks very authoritative and looks very professional and looks like they have all the answers because that's the way they present themselves. And it's sometimes hard to see through it. It's hard to see it. But you always got to question it. We talk in marketing. There's a marketing lesson that I learned from Ted Nicholas way back. And he says, anytime you put an offer in front of somebody, you have to understand the question that's in their head. And he goes, okay, what's the question? It could be a million things, right? It's just one thing, 2 words. So what? So I always ask that question. So what? And it's really served me because it allows me to kind of break through it and say, okay, so what? This happened. McCarthy gets, removed from the seat today, from the speakership. So what? Now we're looking at, okay, so what does it mean going forward? What's the next step? So anytime you're doing anything, you want to convince anybody, know that they're asking the question, so what? And if you can't answer that question for them in their mind, they tune you out. So that's a really good tool for you. And you say, how do I get discernment? That's one way of doing it. It's one way of, or at least breaking the ice in that direction.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that's a huge lesson for anybody, right there. And we all have our little tricks. Just find a little tool that you have, and it really will do it. So something similar. Every time I hear something, I just ask a question. That's it. Yeah. Whatever that question is, I ask a question about it, and the answer will always come to you. Always.
Different question every time, or is it one question, just a different question? Whatever.
No, different question every time.
Okay, good.
It depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
Like, is this real? What are the ramifications of this? Should I move forward? What should we do about this? What are they really saying? This is one of my favorite ones. Is not what they say, but what do they mean? That's one of my favorite ones, and it's very easy when you start conditioning your brain, and it's a lot of fun because all this just automatically it becomes like this, and I really feel like even though I thought I was awake 10 years ago, there was still a fog in front of it, and now I feel like there's clarity where it seems like nobody can see it. I'm like, well, there I see that. Yeah. That's what's going on. Right? All the time. So one of my favorite things is to see what do they mean, not what do they say. And it's incredibly fun to do that.
It's fun to have conversations with people who are still sound asleep. I ask questions and I shut up. And they'll talk themselves into circles like instantly. I mean, 2 or 3 sentences and they're already talking themselves out of everything that they know. And it's the most amazing thing to see. It's like they're so indoctrinated and they believe this little snippet that they got because they turned on CNN for 5 seconds this morning and they got the headline and that's their truth. But if you ask them anything about it, they've got nothing else because that's all they have in their head is that piece. So then you just ask questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to take it to a whole nother level. And I'll probably upset a lot of people on this channel. The patriots are not immune to this. You guys have to have enough honesty with yourself. Set that ego on the shelf for a second and just know that you were probably in most cases indoctrinated, propagandized, and MK Ultra somehow, some way by the cabal over the last 30 years. And I know there'll be 5 people in chat. Never, not me. I'm immune to that. Great. Then congratulations. You're one in 10,000. That's fantastic. So I'm talking to the 99.9% of us that have been subjected to that somehow in our lifetime. Remember that trigger response still exists. You're just reapplying it on a patriot narrative, not the CNN narrative.
Right.
So you have to be very careful of that. So when somebody throws some hopium at you, be careful how fast you swallow that pill. And when somebody throws some fear porn at you, be careful how fast it affects you. Because your behavior is the same in some cases. You're just reapplying it to a different narrative. And we have to be very aware of that. I'm aware of it myself because I've fallen into it because I can be transparent and honest. I've fallen into it, but I'm very aware of it now. So I try to take a deep breath and ask these questions like Robert says. So what? That's a beautiful question.
Yeah. The other thing that I do and you do too is we're always asking, where does it fit, right? So it's like a giant puzzle. We've got this mosaic in front of us, and I've got this piece, and I've got this piece, and I go, okay, where does this new piece fit in, right? We're trying to build the picture and see what's going forward. I've always been that person for my clients, is being able to see what the next 6 months, the next year is going to look like in the economy and on the business front, and they would come to me for that. That's where they would work with me for so many years. It's just I would always be able to do that. So I'm still doing that, even though it's much more chaotic now. It's much harder to kind of figure out what's happening next because there's pieces falling apart everywhere, right? It's not just one thing. We were getting set to set up the Rumble channel yesterday, and we got a 500 error, which means the entire site was down, right? So everything we think is working, it's going in the right direction, and then you have these weird things that happen. AT&T being out here for 3+ weeks, working great now. I'm looking at the connection, 100%. It's fantastic. But why was it out for 3.5 weeks? That's not normal. So we try to predict what's going to go forward, but there's so many pieces that come and get you. So I'll share this with you, Lewis. I'll ask you the question: how do you remain stable in the face of this kind of chaos? Because that's a question I hear a lot. And there's a couple of things that I do. What do you do to remain stable during this?
Well, I've actually used to teach this in some business seminars. So one thing is the roller coaster doesn't do you any good.
Right.
And I mean, whether you ride it high or whether you ride it low, it doesn't do any good. So I try to stay right down there, even keel. So if I get exciting news, I'm like, okay, cool, that's great. If I get bad news, I'm like, okay, that sucks. But so my life, I intentionally do this, is more like this. It's more like a very ebb and a flow. And I make a conscious effort to do that. So I believe I stay more grounded when I do that, and I can look at things clearer. That's my belief system, but I've used to train salespeople and business people in this, and it's very, very effective not riding the roller coaster.
Yep.
And then, of course, I've taught many times on this channel and other is the light oil, heavy oil scenario where light oil equals what everybody thinks about you. Heavy oil is the great things you say about yourself. So I choose to fill my cup with heavy oil. So if I trip up in life, I don't dump my cup out because that heavy oil stays in there. So that's a short way of saying that story. But there's little tricks and tools I use. By the way, I absolutely believe, and I'll probably write a book on this one day, in failing forward. I think the most important thing you can do in life is fail. People, wow, this guy's freaking crazy. No, statistically, I can prove it to you if anybody wants to know one day. But the most important thing you can do is fail, because that means you're taking risks and you keep making yourself uncomfortable, because when you make yourself uncomfortable, you grow and you don't generally regress. Great example is once awake should be always awake or somewhat awake, because you've been used to it, and you keep making yourself a little bit more uncomfortable. Even if we use the analogy in the Patriot movement, you're going to absorb this information easier in the future, and it gets easier and easier and easier. Clarity gets clearer, clearer, clearer. Articulating your message gets better and better and better. Why? Because you were taking a risk and you were willing to fail. And you, patriots, are willing to be abused by your family and friends, which means you have a lot of courage. And that means you're willing to fail by having those discussions, even though people virtually, and sometimes.
Yeah, 11,000 in a day is insane.
So two things, Robert, if it helps you troubleshoot, the base was way high on that also. So it has to be whatever that feed is coming out of there.
Okay.
It sounded like a different guy completely. Can you go back to the video and even pause it? I just want to show people something. And this is how we try to look at things.
I don't know if this software allows me to pause it.
Okay, well, I can let them know. So the big screen said on it Sunday.
Why don't we play it without audio? Then you can talk over it then.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. There we go.
So the big screen should be on the left of your screen says Sunday. If you look at the upper right one, it says Saturday. So let's tie these together. Saturday, they cut the razor wire. Sunday, all the illegals come through.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, that's part of the battle. Cut the razor wire. Okay, we go cut the razor wire. Let them all through. Because if you looked at the day before, they were all standing, as you can see on the bottom, on the other side of the razor wire, couldn't get through. Think about it. Friday, behind the razor wire. Saturday, cut the razor wire. Sunday, guess what? They flood through. So
Wow.
the Biden administration or the people from whoever that is, Border Patrol, whoever's cutting the wire, are absolutely complicit in this 100%. So those are the little things we like to look for.
Yep.
And that was chronologically, you can see what happened there, which is really a trip.
Yeah. They clearly, this is not an accident. This is part of the plan. To imagine being a Border Patrol agent and your sworn oath is to protect the border from invasion. And here you are with a pair of wire cutters cutting the barriers to allow illegals in and giving them a helping hand up and sending them on their way. How do you even look in the mirror at night, in the morning? What? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah.
But again, here's where the optics thing gets lost on me. I have people at the border. I mean, I have people at the border that I talk to, and they say people are flooding through there.
Yeah.
And most of them are fighting age men, which actually is contradictory to what I taught in cages, because in cages I taught that everybody that gets through the border were actually paying the cartel. I think it's flooding so much through there that many of these aren't even going through the cartel. I think they're just getting through the border. They're just too much for them to deal with, because they're not even funneling them. Before they would funnel them through a portal, cartel would make sure that everybody was paying that's going through there. And sometimes you pay with your body several times. Sometimes you pay by smuggling drugs, whatever it is, but you pay. Sometimes they take somebody hostage, and sometimes they track you. They actually have a tracker on you, and they make sure you send them a payment. So many, many ways the cartel gets paid. I don't know how they could possibly stay on top of it now, because there's just too many people flooding from too many different places.
Yeah.
But clearly, we on our side are letting them in, more than letting them in, we're cutting down razor wire. Are you freaking kidding me?
Well,
you might as well just take a bulldozer and start knocking down the fences.
Well, go back step two. We're flying them in from South America. We're putting them on airplanes, paying for those airplanes to fly them into American cities, bypassing the border altogether. There's the one you're not even seeing those. They said the number is like 200,000 this year already have been flown in. We paid for 200,000 airline tickets. That's a bill, isn't it? I don't know. There's a plan where, I'm agreeing with you, Louis. There's a plan here. It's beyond optics, right? It's beyond a show. It's beyond something, because these people are physically in this country. I see them on the street corners here, right? We're starting to see crime in our area, which we never really had crime in this area, but we're starting to see the smash and grabs happen here now, right? So it's beyond optics.
Yeah, well, so I'm traveling a lot lately, and as you know, I traveled to Nevada, and we were in a part of a city that was pretty decent. Mm-hmm. Went out to dinner at night, and several parking places we couldn't park in because they were filled with glass, because the night before there was a bunch of hoodlums that just started busting in all the cars, right?
Wow.
So asked some questions, and like, is this normal? The response was, it is now. Not that it was normal, but it is normal now. So,
wow.
And folks, I hope we can have a chance to get into this graph from Turkey. I don't know if you have it.
Yeah, I have it. Yep.
Because this will tie into what's really going on in the manipulation in the not the financial markets, but just in our finances in general. The perception versus the reality is crazy.
I'm going to bounce around a little bit here on you.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
But the reality is the economy is in the absolute tank, and it's being propped up artificially.
Yeah.
Which, as if anybody's seen this happen in markets before, that's the worst.
There's the Turkey inflation number.
Okay, so guys, if you see it on your screen, this is Turkey that's showing you what their inflation number is, and I believe it's 60%. Is that right, Robert?
60% correct. Yep.
Okay. So I took a lot of notes on this because I'm a little bit familiar with this. Um, so why don't we see 60% here? We do. And there's a big, huge myth. So in fact, I wrote down a bunch of notes for this that I'm going to grab really quick here because it's very interesting. I think people could learn from this. So here we have something in the United States that is called the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? And what happens is these type of numbers are put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Well, it's an absolute complete manipulation. It's a lie. This is, again, why America is the greatest psyop. So it's not just Turkey that's showing you the truth. Several countries are showing the truth of somewhere between 50 and 70% inflation. And you guys may say, well, that's crazy because we only have 4.6% inflation, or over a 3-year span, in the last 3 years, we have less than 10%. Okay, that's a lie. You're being fed. And I'm going to prove it just to help you guys understand how you're being lied to by our government and the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So wheat, corn, eggs, dairy, and meat have all increased over the last 3 years since 2020 between 50 and 100%. Nobody in there can deny it because I'm sure most of you are shopping for groceries. And you've noticed wheat, corn, eggs, dairy, and meat have all, anything that's involving those products have skyrocketed. You add to that, fuel has almost doubled. So I think it's up 70-some% from where it was when President Trump was in office. Okay. Now, wheat, corn, eggs, dairy, and meat take up almost 80% of everything that's purchased. And you can add sugar onto that, and it's like 90%. Sugar's gone through the roof also, which makes sense because the fuel's also gone through the roof. So how is it that all the food, all the fuel can be up somewhere between 50 and 100%, yet the CPI shows total of less than a 10% inflation? Because they manipulate it. They pick and choose which ones they want to do in order to create this statistic. It's called false statistics. And I'm really into stats, so I know the game of how they work. So what they do is, instead of taking the percentage of usage or sales on every single product, I think they use like 7,600 or whatever the number is, what they do is they take them as a whole individually as if they're weighed the same. That's a game. It's a total lie. That would say like let's say I eat 1 green bean a year and 10 pounds of hamburger. It's the same weight. That 1 green bean and 10 pounds of hamburger is the same weight for them. It's an absolute manipulation. It's a lie. So no, we are not in an inflationary of 3.4% per year. We're somewhere between 50 and 100%, and you guys know it because you're seeing it in your food, right? Now, they made a big deal last month. Eggs dropped 6%. Okay. Well, when eggs go up over double and they drop 6%, that's still a net of over 94%. So come on, guys, pay attention. Stop believing the hype. Like, there's a lot of people who, well, eggs just dropped. Okay, fantastic. So if it doubles and then they drop it a little bit, by the way, that's a sales tactic that's been used in large corporations forever. They increase their prices by 50%, and then they do a 20% sale. And everybody buys at the net higher price. You guys are being manipulated. This is a game. It's a lie. Don't get sucked into it. Our inflation is well over 50%. Now, the proof is in the pudding. Homelessness is up through the roof. People in poverty level, instead of eating 3 meals a day, are eating 2, sometimes 1 meal a day. Across the board, right? It's going on. Inexpensive drug use is gone through the roof. And I know you don't think that is a barometer, but it is, because when they start making their own stuff and cutting it with the stuff, that's gone through the roof because they're addicted, right? It's going all the way. Theft burglaries are going through the roof. The crime rate's going through the roof. This is all part and parcel. These are the real barometers, guys, for a true inflation. We're being lied to. The big thing that they did to manipulate us is shrinkflation. And what that would be is you used to get something that had 6 in it, now it has 4. And then the next step is they literally shrunk that 4 down to less ounces. So they've done it 2 or 3 times on one product. It's all manipulation. You go into restaurants, you're probably noticing quality is down, prices are up, portions are down, which probably is a good thing in the long run. But the reality is, it's across the board, guys. This is a mass corporate manipulation because we're in a corpocracy. We are in a hyperinflation right now. But nobody has seen it because they keep believing what they're being told by a corrupt government that has lied to you.
We kind of know otherwise, don't we? Thank you for sharing your laptop with us, my friend. So he's fighting that in court.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. I almost think, this is just an idea I'm throwing out here. What if there was a law that if you pled not guilty and you were found to lie because you're guilty and so therefore you lied, that your sentence would double?
I know the sentence is more severe if you plead not guilty and are found guilty than if you plead guilty, then you get a lesser sentence.
But isn't that just a suggestion? I don't know. Is there?
No, I think it is real. I don't know that it's quite double, but it is a more severe sentence if you plead not guilty and then are found guilty.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So he's pleading not guilty here.
You're wasting our time.
So if we find him guilty, then the penalty should be higher. But of course, his father's just going to pardon him anyway. So
it won't matter. Yeah, and
charge him.
And I think it's still not even a felony, is it?
I don't know if this is a federal charge or not. That's interesting. I got to look into that. Anybody knows in the chat room, let us know. They're good. All right. I'm going to leave this story to you because you requested it. So here you go, my friend. Tell us what the heck is going on here.
All right. So this is the first kiss caught on camera of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. We have to have Taylor Swift on here all the time. It's amazing. So you can definitely see who wears the pants in that family. Isn't that special right there? So that's Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift on camera with their first kiss. It's everything you would expect it to be, isn't it?
Isn't it? It is. Oh my gosh. Fun. All right. We got something happening.
Amazing Bruce Poppy and Sean Fresh will be co-hosting this amazing event. Robert will be remotely taking care of business, and I'll probably show up. So it is an amazing event with an absolute incredible speaker list. If you haven't seen it, go to truthtour.net, click on it, and look at the speakers that we have there. We are going to have a blast. I mean, a blast like you cannot possibly imagine. It's going to be so much fun. I don't know. It's one big party. By the way, guys, that's the last one. So this is the final Truth Tour. So if you want to have a chance, I would at least go there to meet people. Something special is going on also. We are going to have a wonderful premiere lunch. So those people that have premiere tickets will sit down with the speakers. And the speakers will rotate, so everybody's going to get a chance to talk to them to each table while you guys are eating lunch. That'll be a lot of fun. Plus, you get a premiere ticket, you get preferred seating, a beautiful gift bag with some very cool collectibles, or you can get a premier seating seat if you just want to buy a ticket just for the seat. Fantastic. But guess what? I never want people to go without just because they can't afford it. So we just opened up free tickets as well. So if you need to get a free ticket and you just hate us and you don't want to support us, actually get your free ticket and come enjoy. And we're gonna welcome you with open arms, just like we would everybody else. So go to truthtour.net. Robert, that is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And we've been working behind the scenes a lot. That's kind of what's taking up the other part of the free time that we have during the day is getting things squared away for that and trying to figure out all the logistics of making this a really, really good event. And like you said, we'll be hosting the live part of it, which will be a lot of fun. And now that our streaming is working the way it's supposed to work. It's even better. So I'm looking forward to all of those speakers. You know, when I'm watching the video there and I'm looking at all these speakers, every one of them has a story. Every one of them has something to bring to the table that is different. And so you don't say, oh, it's just, one speaker after the other, they're all talking about the same thing. Every one of them goes in a different direction. Everyone has different experiences and different views, and it's really fascinating. And, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time. I remember, Truth Tour #1, I think it was 8+ hours. We were sitting on a really hard metal seat, and I just didn't want to get up, even though I was so uncomfortable. I was like, I didn't care. It was like the speakers were so darn good. And, that's the opportunity I had to really get exposure to this world in a good way. If you haven't had that opportunity yet, this may be your last chance. Actually, it is your last chance for Truth Tour. So if you want the truth, truthtour.net. Tickets are there. You can get free tickets. You can get a VIP premiere ticket and get to meet the speakers in person, because I think that is a value. But also the people next to you. They're also a value too. You'll make a lot of friends.
Yep. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yep. No question. All right. Good old Sammy here. This is an interesting story. SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried. He's the guy who was funneling money through cryptocurrency to our politicians. Well, it turns out Mr. Sam here was not only funneling money to the Democrats, he was also funneling money to the Republicans who were anti-Trump. Go figure.
Yep. But guess who he met with before he decided to fund the money to that list of anti-Trumpers? Anybody in the chat have a guess? Come on.
I just put it back up, so now you see it. The headline
is there. It is. Mitch McConnell. That's right. He met with Mitch, the bitch, and decided to fund the anti-Trumpers personally. Millions, multi-millions of dollars. There's no corruption whatsoever in that corporation that we call government.
None whatsoever. Why would there be corruption in the government? That doesn't make any sense. They don't go up there to get rich. They go up there to serve the public. Come on, Lewis. What are you talking about here? Huh?
What are you talking about over here?
Sometimes my New York comes through. Okay, don't get me mad because it comes out.
As it should on that case.
Yep.
So ridiculous.
Well, New York is one of those places, right? That if you want to survive there, you have to be tough as nails. And it's one of the things people don't understand about Trump, especially here in California. Why is he so nasty? Well, let's see. His business is based in Queens, and then he worked in Manhattan in the construction industry, working with unions and construction workers and contractors. You kind of have to be a little bit tough as nails there. So he isn't as toxic as most New Yorkers. I gotta tell you, he's toned it down quite a bit. But people are like, oh, those mean tweets. He's a New Yorker. Shut up. Yeah. It just is what it is.
All right, so let's talk about that. So
okay.
You said, because there's another psyop, and I said New York and California are big psyops. Mm-hmm. So you just said New York, in order to do business there or do anything, you have to be tough as nails.
Yep.
Okay. We know that the left-wing safe space Marxists are not tough as nails. But yet we're told that New York City is all left. Because, folks, there's two types of left. Number one, the voting was ever. So they probably never even were blue or left. But let's assume that they are. You have two types of left. You have the safe space lefties, right? And then you have the disgusting win at all costs, cut your knees off lefties, right? And those are the controllers of the lefties. So you have to remember that's the two, and they're perfectly situated for New York.
Yep.
Especially if you just look at the stock market, the traders, and all that stuff, right? So very, very interesting dynamic that goes on in New York.
Well,
similar to
go
San
look
Francisco,
back a little
by the way.
bit. Go back in time to Mayor Dinkins. And then who replaced him? Who was elected after him? Mayor of New York, Giuliani.
And
what did Giuliani do? I mean, his approval ratings were through the frickin' roof.
Yep.
And if he could have done a third term, they would have elected him again. So it's not as blue as you think it is. Again, the elections there, same thing. Mail-in ballots, Dominion machines, yada, 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 ballot harvesting, all the rest of the nonsense that goes on there, goes on everywhere else too. So is it really as blue? California's not that blue. I don't have that many Democrat friends here. Yeah, I've got a few, but there's a lot of Republicans, especially because, well, let's see, how many military bases are there in San Diego alone? You got Pendleton, Miramar, you got yeah, it's like you got a bunch of them, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's that. The military is generally speaking, they're more red than they are blue.
Well, California's huge on military and huge on farmers, which generally run red.
Yep. Yep. And you look at places like Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, totally conservative. Every person I meet from there is like, oh yeah, we're Trump supporters. I'm like, of course. Well, our voice isn't being heard here. A Republican in California is a little bit like a dinosaur. They're hard to find. They're not there. Anyway, Letitia beating up on Trump. Here's a video that Fox News released today. I thought that was kind of interesting to show how vile this woman really is. Watch this.
I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake. I believe that the president of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the I know my name personally.
That man in the White House who can't go a day without threatening our fundamental rights.
Yes, we need to focus on Donald Trump and his abuses. We need to follow his money. We need to find out where he's laundered money. We need to find out whether or not he's engaged in conspiracy. It's important that everyone understand that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end.
I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and then going home.
What a beautiful woman, huh?
Oh, she's gorgeous. And look, you pronounced her name Letitia. Her name's Letitia.
Letitia. I pronounce it that way off air, but not on air.
Oh, what a wonderful world we live in. So it's okay. So again, you guys pick the narrative yourself. So this is either going to one way. Either way, there's a conspiracy going on here. You either have the 2030 agenda that has been accelerated. So now they're trying to accomplish it right now in 2023. They actually tried in 2020 because they're got their backs against the wall. The cabal's just freaking out. So now these demons come out in public constantly and tell you what they're doing.
Yep.
Or these are actors and they're playing a part in order to wake us up. Either way, it doesn't matter. That's why I say people invest too much emotional currency in trying to figure out whether they're an actor or whether they're not. It doesn't matter because either way, it pushes the ball in the right direction and we, the people, win. So just focus on the positive. Don't get all divided and effed up in your head. Just go, doesn't matter. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's going in the right direction.
Yep. Alina Habba is Trump's attorney. Love this woman. She's like balls to the wall. I love women who are tough like this. Listen to this.
I don't think you should say woman and balls to the wall because I think that would be Caitlyn Jenner.
No, this woman is
leads with Michael Cohen.
Yep.
Right? That's a non-starter. She has this whacked out judge that even he couldn't justify 80% of her case and threw it out. And he's a total whack job.
Yep.
I've seen videos of this guy. I'm Nancy Pelosi, only I'm a dude. So he's a total freak and he can't even justify 80% of her case. And then she has the balls to say that Mar-a-Lago's worth $18 million.
Yeah, the driveway's worth $18 million there.
I'm absolutely. A hubcap is worth $18 million on any Trump property. It is beautiful. And maybe this is where I start to think, maybe it is all a movie because they're just self-destructing. And that golden boomerang that they're using, they throw at Trump, and it just whacks him right back in the smack of the back of the head. It's so fun.
And he shows up to court, even though he doesn't have to show up to court, which I thought was kind of interesting too. He doesn't have to be there. He was there yesterday. He's there again today.
Yeah, he was not even called to court, and he's going to be there.
Yeah. He wants to look her in the eye and stare her down, and he's not one to back down, which is really fascinating. Now, I want to mention that another patriot that you and I both revere, or have a lot of respect for, Michael Lindell, is under tremendous attack now. The IRS is going after him, and they're doing everything they can to get his company shut down. He's on Bannon every morning doing a little ad, and you could see the stress in his eyes. You can see he's hurting now. So if you guys want to try on my pillow or get some of my slippers, I love my slippers. Have them on right now, because why should I do the show with shoes on, right? Really good products there. Just go and support him, because they're going after not only him, the IRS, they're actually going after his employees too. And the reason they're going after the employees is to get them to quit and to hurt the company even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the good news for Mike is, when he put out his lawsuit against Dominion, he actually had foresight enough to pretty much predict that this is going to happen, because they're using lawfare, and they use the word lawfare a lot. You heard Trump's attorney right here use the word lawfare. So I want you guys to start paying attention, because these are the things we need to listen to. You're going to hear the good guys using the word lawfare a lot. There's a reason for that, because it can bring back up. You're going to start hearing him say RICO a lot in the next phase, and then after that, you're going to hear what you really want to hear, Nuremberg, and it's going to have to trickle through like this for some reason. Now, here's my belief system, and I know we have to go, but I'm going to leave. I want to at least leave people with this for now, since I'm going to be gone a whole day. Chew on this. I believe, in order for this to work, the end result that we are going to see is 90% of government will be abolished. 90% of law, which means lawyers and judges, will go to the wayside. 90% of big agriculture will be gone. 90% of the medical industry will be history. And 90% of the education system as you know it will be gone. Because it is unnecessary to have all of this stuff going on. It is absolutely unnecessary. I believe homeschooling will become prominent. That'll take care of education, or at least it will all be private type schooling going on. And I think public schools will be very, very far and few between. The medical industry will absolutely be torched, because everybody's learning right now that nutrition comes first. You just go in for an emergency, a surgery, a broken bone, something like that. That's pretty much all they're good for, right? We're figuring it out. Even liberals are figuring out now that all our food's poison. And part of the America being the biggest psyop is our food is a lot worse here than any other country. We're going to figure that out. So it's going to go all through there. We don't need all these laws. There's so many laws that are redundant, and the reason why they're redundant and they're overwritten and they put so much text in is because this is how they justify having all of the attorneys and all the judges, and it's their infrastructure. Don't be afraid, but I actually think that our prisons will be emptied up to 90% also, because the drug users should all be free.
Right.
And then there's a lot of other crimes that people have been put in jail for not good reasons. And we're already learning, or know, when I say we, is the prison corporation is one of the dirtiest on earth. And how is it possible that there's not a law that prevents judges from owning prison corporations?
Conflict of interest much?
You think?
Yeah.
Right? So I believe we're going to see a completely different, and which will be beautiful, because I believe we're going to be self-governed again, and that's really ultimately what needs to happen.
I share that same vision, and I've been talking about that for almost a year now. That imagine what this world would be like without the FDA, without big pharma, without hospitals that are sick care. They're not health care. I always ask people, when you go into a hospital, does it feel more like a place of healing, or does it feel like a factory? And most people go, well, it's a factory. Everything's on wheels. They're rolling them in, rolling them out. It's like it's that they got to keep those patients coming in and coming out to make their money. And it's just not a place of healing at all. So we'd be good without any of that stuff. We don't need it. And stop suppressing the real cures that are out there. I work with natural health doctors all the time. It's like they create what we would consider to be miracles. They just think, well, it's just working with the body, letting the body heal itself. All this knowledge is there. It's just suppressed, and those guys have to operate under the radar because they can get in trouble if they say we can cure, because only drugs can cure, according to